Mark chapter 9, verse 50 says, "Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with each other." In ancient Israel, salt played a very fundamental role. In the book of Leviticus chapter 2, verse 13, we're told that whenever the children of Israel were to make a grain offering, they were told to always have salt on the grain offering. And the grain offering was a symbol of thanksgiving that people would put in the fire, and it will basically be a pleasing aroma to God. This was one of the ways that people would remember the faithfulness of God, was to offer a grain offering that had salt. And yesterday or on Sunday, we had spoken about our spiritual act of worship and how we can actually reveal the glory of God is the fact that we can actually offer our lives as a sacrifice. So salt is one of the ways that we can worship God, by being salty. But what does it mean to be salty? Salt in the ancient world played the role of preserving. So they didn't have a fridge like we have a fridge to preserve our food. So if you had meat, the only way to preserve the meat is if you had put salt. And so salt played the role of preserving things. And so even today, the role of us as believers in the world is that we would preserve the truth of God in a world that is decaying very fast and moving away from moral knowledge, and we're reaching a point where the world will not even know what is right and what is wrong, because people are defining right and wrong based on their own assumption that it's up to them. So our role as the church is to preserve that moral knowledge, that the world will know through the scriptures and our preaching and our lives really what is truth, what is right and what is wrong. But lastly and thirdly, the role of salt is also to add flavor. Now, adding flavor means that the believer in the world is the one that is able to go into any relationship, any conversation, and really add truth, or add the truth of the gospel, or add the flavor of God. But I think if we lose our saltiness, if we lose our purpose, where we are ineffective in the world, where we aren't able to affect change, we aren't able to bring the good news, we aren't able to bring good in the world, we aren't able to bring the kingdom of God. Now this verse tells us then we'll become useless. Then we will not be actually adding value to the world. In fact, we will be so blended in the world that our Christian values will have no value that they add to the world. And so this verse calls each and every believer to say the way that we will reveal the kingdom to the world is that we will become salty, that we will be preservers of the truth of the gospel, that we will be people who add value to other people, that we will also be people who live lives that are this pleasing grain offering that has been seasoned with salt, and it is a pleasing aroma unto God. It is pleasing to God when we add flavor to the world. It is pleasing to God when we add value to people. It is pleasing to God when we preserve the truth of the gospel to a world that is drifting away from God.